As a developing country with a population of 1.4 billion, China has always been the focus of competition among major global aviation manufacturers, especially Boeing in the United States, due to its huge market size. Data shows that in the past 20 years, Boeing's annual revenue in China has reached $10 billion. However, on April 21st, a Boeing 737 MAX aircraft that had been completed and was about to be delivered was forced to fly back from China to Boeing's final assembly plant in Seattle due to the impact of reciprocal tariffs. Subsequently, there were rumors that Boeing might be kicked out of the Chinese market. The reason is that the Chinese government has ordered to stop accepting Boeing aircraft and suspend the import of all aircraft-related equipment and parts from the United States. If this news is true, Boeing will face a loss of up to $28 billion in orders in the next 2 years. In today's video, we will analyze for you, why did China reject Boeing's $28 billion order? In the future, will China really abandon Boeing completely? If you like our video content, please click to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can receive all our latest video content. Now, let's get into today's topic. We can see that within 100 days of Trump taking office as U.S. president, he began to promote the policy of imposing tariffs and constantly threatened other countries with higher tariffs. He first imposed tariffs of about 25% on neighboring Canada and Mexico, and then raised tariffs on key products such as automobiles, semiconductors, steel, and medicines by 25%. But Trump did not stop there. He also used the so-called reciprocal tariff policy to increase tariffs on some specific product from some countries to an astonishing 254%. Such measures are ostensibly intended to protect domestic industries in the United States, but in fact they have exacerbated tensions in the global trade situation. But Trump is obviously not satisfied with the current results. He seems to be trying to use high tariffs as a sanction tool to force other countries to the negotiating table by increasing pressure. With the threat of rising tariffs, he is trying to use economic leverage to strengthen the United States' negotiating advantage. Of course, as a long-term strategic competitor of the United States, China naturally becomes one of the first targets in this tariff war. From the initial 10% tariff in 2018 to the current 245% tariff, the trade cooperation between the two sides has reached a freezing point. Subsequently, Beijing also began to counter the U.S. tariff sanctions in an orderly manner. In April this year, the General Administration of Customs of China issued an announcement announcing the implementation of export controls on 7 categories of medium and heavy rare earth-related products, which will officially take effect from the day the announcement was issued. At the same time, China also included 16 U.S. entities in the export control list. Then, on April 12th, China again raised tariffs on imported goods originating from the United States from the previous 84% to 125%. At this tariff level, the competitiveness of U.S. products in the Chinese market has declined significantly. If the United States continues to escalate trade measures, China may make a more severe counterattack. At the same time, some media broke the news that in order to further counter the U.S. tariff sanctions, China has instructed relevant companies to suspend the acceptance of Boeing aircraft and stop importing related equipment and parts from the United States. This decision directly affects Boeing's orders with a total value of up to $28 billion, making this American aviation giant likely to become the biggest victim in this tariff conflict. So, what exactly happened behind this? As early as 2024, Boeing predicted in its latest civil aviation market outlook that China will need about 8,830 new civil aircraft in the next 20 years to meet the growing demand for air passenger and cargo transportation. About 60% of them will be used to expand the fleet size, and the other 40% will be used to replace old aircraft with new models with higher fuel efficiency. The report also pointed out that China's domestic air travel is expected to grow at an average annual rate of 5.2% and will soon become the world's largest air passenger market. According to this development trend, China is expected to receive 188 Boeing aircraft between 2025 and 2027 alone, based on the average selling price of $150 million per aircraft. The total value of this batch of orders is about $28.2 billion. However, after China imposed tariffs of up to 125% on U.S. products, the import cost of Boeing aircraft and related parts has soared to more than twice the original. For high-end manufactured products like Boeing, which cost hundreds of millions of dollars per unit. Even if China has not issued a clear procurement ban, it has almost lost its market appeal due to the sharp drop in cost performance. What is more serious is that China responded strongly within a few days after President Trump announced the so-called Liberation Day tariff policy on April 2nd. On April 12th, China officially announced a 125% tariff on U.S. goods, which directly led to a sharp increase in the prices of U.S.-made aircraft and parts, and may prompt Chinese airlines to suspend the acceptance of Boeing aircraft. Of course, before the tariff war broke out, Boeing's share of the Chinese market has always been very considerable. According to the data I found, the total number of commercial aircraft in service in China has reached 4,324, of which Boeing has 1,821 aircraft, Airbus has 2,228 aircraft, and there are only 117 domestically produced aircraft. This means that Boeing accounts for as much as 42% of China's civil aviation fleet, which is enough to show that it once had a strong dominant position in the Chinese market. However, by 2024, Boeing encountered a series of supply chain crises, the most serious of which was a large-scale strike that lasted more than 7 weeks and involved more than 30,000 workers, causing its multiple production lines to stagnate and its delivery capacity to drop significantly. This directly affected Boeing's ability to fulfill its contracts on time and also significantly reduced its competitiveness in the global market. But in fact, the real reason for Boeing's predicament is not just the supply chain problem. A series of aircraft accidents have also greatly affected its sales. As early as October 2018, a Boeing 737 MAX 8 with 189 passengers on board crashed into the Java Sea just minutes after taking off from Jakarta, Indonesia, leaving no one on board. After the accident, an executive of Indonesia Lion Air revealed in an interview that a key new flight control system was not mentioned in the operating manual of the Boeing 737 MAX 8, which was the potential factor that caused the aircraft to suddenly fall. Even more ironic is that just one day before the accident, the United Pilots Association of the United States publicly accused Boeing of deliberately concealing the potential risks of the system. But Boeing's problems are not isolated cases. As early as March 2019, an Ethiopian Airlines Boeing 737 MAX 8 took off from the capital Addis Ababa, carrying 149 passengers and 8 crew members. Soon after, the plane crashed in the Bishoftu area, about 45 kilometers from the capital. Although the search and rescue team quickly rushed to the scene, no one on board survived. This accident is very similar to the previous air crash of the same type of aircraft in Indonesia, which shocked global public opinion and seriously damaged Boeing's reputation. After the accident, China took the lead in announcing the suspension of Boeing 737 MAX, and it was suspended for a full 5 years. Subsequently, this model was also grounded or banned worldwide. It is noteworthy that the Federal Aviation Administration of the United States did not officially admit that the 737 MAX also had design defects until 2023. After the accident, Boeing's market value evaporated by as much as $140 billion. Until 2024, Boeing delivered only 348 aircraft throughout the year, 34 fewer than during the worst period of the New Crown epidemic. In March this year, the latest audit results disclosed by the Federal Aviation Administration of the United States were even more jaw-dropping. 33 of the 89 audits Boeing accepted failed, with a failure rate of nearly 40%. This result not only exposed Boeing's serious loopholes in quality management, but also further exacerbated the outside world's doubts about the safety of its products. What is more worrying is that Boeing's main fuselage supplier Spirit AeroSystems also has frequent problems, and more than half of the audit projects failed. This series of quality and management problems has undoubtedly exacerbated Boeing's trust crisis in the global market, especially in the extremely competitive aviation manufacturing industry. In fact, in addition to purchasing Boeing or Airbus aircraft, China has another alternative, that is, the domestically produced C919. As of 2025, 18 C919s have been delivered and put into commercial operation. Among them, China Eastern Airlines owns 10, China Southern Airlines owns 3, and Air China also owns 3. The cumulative safe flight time has exceeded 23,000 hours. More than 9,600 commercial flights have been operated, and the cumulative number of passengers carried has exceeded 1.27 million. This number itself is enough to show that C919 is being accepted by more and more passengers and airlines. What's more worth mentioning is that the versatility of C919 has also attracted much attention. It can be quickly converted into a medical aircraft, and its spacious cargo hold can accommodate a full set of field hospital equipment, which is convenient for rapid deployment in emergency rescue or humanitarian missions. Even the Vietnamese Marine Corps has shown great interest in C919, believing that it is more efficient than traditional landing ships. The delivery speed of C919 has also put a lot of pressure on Boeing. It took Vietnam only 3 months from signing the contract to receiving the aircraft, which is in sharp contrast to the strike that broke out at Boeing's Seattle factory due to the implementation of a 4-day work week by employees. Since the launch of C919, airlines in countries such as Brunei, Indonesia, and Brazil have also begun to purchase this new model. At present, the total number of orders for C919 has exceeded 1,000. However, as of now, in nearly 2 years of commercial operation, the actual delivery volume is still only 18. This means that although C919 has the potential to enter the international market, its current production capacity is still difficult to meet the demand for orders, and it cannot compete head-on with Boeing and Airbus in the short term. However, according to COMAC's plan, by 2027, the annual production of C919 will increase to 150 aircraft. By 2028, the localization rate will exceed 80%. Following this trend, in the next 3 to 5 years, C919 will have the strength to compete with Boeing and Airbus, and the market share of Boeing and Airbus will inevitably be further squeezed. In my opinion, Trump's tariff war this time has almost no chance of winning. In fact, after the tariffs were imposed, the daily life of the American people has been significantly impacted. Today, the panic buying trend is spreading across the United States. Consumers are worried about further price increases and are buying in advance. This panic consumption is likely to disrupt the market order and even cause a larger imbalance between supply and demand. At the same time, many small and medium-sized business owners in the United States are also feeling the pressure. They are generally worried that the tariff policy will lead to a sharp increase in the prices of imported parts, intermediate products, and raw materials, which will squeeze the already limited profit margins. With rising costs, it is becoming increasingly difficult for these companies to maintain normal operations, and many companies are even facing the risk of closing down or going bankrupt. To not miss out on our future projects and news updates, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We will continue to provide you with more exciting and interesting content.